I am welcoming Scott Thompson, the candidate for Ward 2. Hello, Scott.
Hi, Marge.
Scott, I am looking forward to hearing the responses to some questions I have sent you. I'm asking you to respond to each question within 2 minutes. First question: how would you describe the value of our heritage, and how would you like to see Richmond Hill's 150th anniversary celebrated next year?
Great question. And I feel we should be doing everything to preserve our heritage, whether it be our tangible heritage, such as buildings, architecture, our intangible heritage, such as our folklore, our natural heritage, such as environmentally sensitive lands, native wildlife, insect species, that type of thing. Because I feel the value of preserving our heritage is that it becomes our unique way of expressing ourselves to the outside world. As far as celebrations go, I would like to see us have multiple events throughout the year that celebrates our rich heritage, whether through special presentations or demonstrations or historical walking tours, and that our celebrations should go beyond when Richmond Hill was first incorporated as a village 150 years ago. It should also recognize the major influences on early settlement and how the village began to take form, the role that Yonge Street played in its development, key individuals that brought settlers to the area, the introduction of commercial development, the various trades established, such as the greenhouses that put the village of Richmond Hill on the map as the rose growing capital of Canada. These celebrations should also recognize our Indigenous heritage as well. Why I'm wearing orange today. I also think that there should be a review of any Indigenous artifacts in our museums to determine if there is anything in the collection that should be returned to the Indigenous community as rightful owners. And if so, perhaps we could have a repatriation ceremony as part of the heritage events. So even though I said I'd like to see multiple events throughout this year, I would still like to see us have a main celebration that culminates in a heritage weekend versus just one day, something that would be of interest to everyone from all backgrounds, whether they're young or old alike.
Very good. I love your answer. Okay, let's move on to question 2. The majority of Richmond Hill residents are very car dependent. This has us with a large carbon footprint and contributing to the degradation of our environment. Do you see us resigned to live like this? Would you support changes to the municipal zoning rules to permit non-residential uses in areas that are now strictly residential? Should new subdivisions be designed differently?
I think you just rolled a couple of questions together there, Marge.
Yeah, but one you can answer together.
I'll start with the car dependency and the carbon footprint, because that's an interesting question, because it was the automobile that brought major changes to Richmond Hill by introducing the concept of commuting to Toronto to work. And that started in 1910 when Richmond Hill's first residential subdivision was registered and evolved into the community of Richvale. And here we are over 100 years later, and the vast majority of Richmond Hill residents continue to commute elsewhere for work. If we're going to see an end to the excessive use of cars and a move toward more environmentally friendly means of transportation, such as carpooling, public transit, walking, and bicycling, then employment needs to be closer to home. So the question becomes, why hasn't Richmond Hill been able to attract major businesses to set shop up here? I think the answer is because of affordable housing. If you're a major corporation, you will want your employees to be able to live close by. We always talk about wanting Richmond Hill to be a community where people live, work, and play. But if we're not able to offer the right mix of housing, that would make it, attractive for employers to set up shop. Then we'll forever be that meatloaf song where 2 out of 3 ain't bad. On the plus side, though, and thanks to the pandemic, many businesses have discovered new ways of conducting their business, where many staff now work remotely, thus promoting a more car-free lifestyle. Plus, there are already initiatives that are moving us towards low carbon and zero carbon transportation systems. Personally, I foresee that the carbon footprint of our transportation systems will not be the large contributor to the degradation of our environment that it has been. And then I think you went on to the question about municipal zoning rules and would I permit non-residential uses in areas that are now strictly residential? And should new subdivisions be designed differently? So the answer is yes and yes. In some ways, this idea is a throwback to the 1950s, where you would find essential service such as grocery stores, libraries, schools, and health clinics, all within a 15-minute walk from everyone's home. If we go back to the previous question of promoting a more carefree or car-free lifestyle, then this will be particularly effective when home is also the workplace. The key here is that there would have to be restrictions on which non-residential uses should be permitted. For instance, I don't think anyone wants to see industry and manufacturing intermixed with the residential community that would bring large trucks and heavy vehicles through the neighborhood, or businesses with shifts that work around the clock. As far as new subdivisions should be designed, they should always have community in mind. In my opinion, many of our subdivisions have grown in ad hoc fashion with no real thought given to practicality or ergonomics. Ideally, new subdivisions should provide home buyers with convenience, comfort, and a genuine sense of community by providing parks, playgrounds, recreational facilities, and a mix of retail and sidewalks where people can stroll safely. They should incorporate a mix of housing options that includes a percentage of affordable housing. I would also like to see the incorporation of more energy and environmental initiatives such as water reduction, rainwater management, energy consumption optimization, and the use of sustainable materials.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that very thorough response. Third question. What do you see as Richmond Hill's vulnerabilities?
I would have to say emergency preparedness. The things that we called once in a 100-year events have become much more commonplace now. We have been witnessing more and more climate-related disasters such as flooding, ice storms, high winds, and this has brought a scale of destruction and devastation that is new and terrifying. The reality is that climate-related disasters have tripled in the last 30 years. We need to better prepare ourselves with the emergence of viruses and diseases. The current COVID-19 pandemic is a stark reminder of how vulnerable we are as a society. And this has come on the heels of other outbreaks of SARS and MERS and the Zika virus. We need to be able to respond in a much timelier manner to contain these outbreaks. Another vulnerability that I find very disturbing is voter apathy. It truly amazes me that people do not exercise their democratic right to vote for trusted individuals to make decisions that best represent the interests and well-being of our community. Voter apathy, in my opinion, has led to individuals being elected to office through support from specific groups with self-serving interests that negatively impact our community in the long term. Overzealous development is an example where I feel we will struggle to provide the necessary infrastructure and services to support the needs of overdevelopment.
Okay. Fourth question. Imagine there was a lottery for municipalities and Richmond Hill won $50 million. How would you like to see it spent?
Another interesting question is because that dollar amount, 50 million, is an amount that could potentially benefit short-term, mid-term, long-term goals. I would think that we would have to do an assessment of all of our currently funded programs and capital projects to see where an injection of additional funding might provide the best bang for the buck. While it might not be very sexy, it's possible that replacing some of our infrastructure sooner rather than later might represent good value to our community in the long run. On the other hand, there may be various city-funded programs that might best utilize the injection of funding now so that these programs will be better positioned to address the needs of our growing population in both the short term and long term. Bottom line is that I would want to see and hear input from all our stakeholders, partners, staff, and residents before coming to any kind of conclusion on how such an amount should be utilized.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate your responses. Let's move on to the second part of this candidate conversation. 7 fun facts about the candidates. They're to be answered quickly and with a smile. Okay, are you a tea or coffee drinker?
Non-caffeinated, caffeinated herbal teas. I don't drink
Okay.
coffee at all. That's why I
Oh,
say caffeinated.
right. Okay. Do you prefer ebooks or real books?
Real books.
Real books. Do you say ketchup or catsup?
Ketchup with a K.
With a what is your ideal place for a vacation?
I like to get into the Ontario backcountry. We have some of the best places right here in Ontario.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a Mac or a PC?
PC,
PC. What is your favorite vegetable?
sweet potatoes.
Okay. And have you ever played pickleball?
Never. I'm
Oh,
not a racket sport person.
okay. Thank you, Scott, for all these responses. I wish you well with the campaign, and I hope to see you around the city soon.
Thank you very much, Marj. Really appreciate you doing this.